morning. It's Thursday, 6th of March, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Bombing mishap. South Korean fighter jets accidentally drop bombs on civilian area, injuring 15. Tariff delay. Trump grants US automakers 1-month break on Canada and Mexico import tariffs. Return to Earth. NASA astronauts Wilmore and Williams set to return to Earth after 9 months.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Prashansa Gunawardana.
Good evening once again. 15 people in South Korea were injured, 2 of them seriously, after a pair of fighter jets accidentally dropped 8 bombs in a civilian district during a live-fire military exercise.
An ordinary Thursday morning interrupted by a rogue airstrike, leaving this home in tatters. The culprit? 2 South Korean fighter jets, which accidentally dropped a total of 8 bombs on a civilian area, injuring a handful of people on the ground and damaging several buildings. The incident occurred in the city of Pucheon, 40 kilometers north of Seoul and not far from the country's border with North Korea. Residents in the area have long protested about the potential danger from nearby training grounds, and they've been left shell-shocked by the latest events. According to one official, the accident was due to a pilot entering incorrect coordinates, and the Air Force has said that it will establish a committee to investigate while also examining the scale of civilian damages. The fighter jet was taking part in the Air Force's joint live firing drills with the Army. Authorities have suspended exercises for the time being, but the incident will not affect joint South Korean and US military exercises, which are due to begin on Monday.
The Vatican said that Pope Francis, who has been in hospital for almost 3 weeks battling double pneumonia, has spent another tranquil night and is still resting.
Pope Francis remains under medical care at Rome's Gemelli Hospital, where he was admitted on February 14th with a severe respiratory infection. The Vatican confirmed that while his condition is stable, he is still undergoing respiratory and mobility physiotherapy. The 88-year-old Pope has struggled with repeated health issues in recent years, making him particularly vulnerable to lung infections. He had part of his lung removed as a young man, and doctors say this makes him more vulnerable to severe pneumonia. Doctors say the Pope is suffering from double pneumonia, an infection that inflames both lungs, making it difficult to breathe. While he no longer requires full mechanical ventilation, he continues to receive high flow of oxygen through nasal tubes. The Vatican has not yet provided a timeline for the Pope's return, leaving questions about his ability to resume his full schedule. His absence from public life, the longest since his papacy began, has raised concern over his long-term health and the leadership of the Catholic Church.
Serbian opposition lawmakers threw smoke grenades and used pepper spray inside parliament to protest against the government and to support demonstrating students, with one legislator suffering a stroke during the chaos.
Parliament on the day was set to confirm Prime Minister Milos Vucevic's resignation and vote on the dismissal of Speaker Ana Brnabić. The scenes come as protesters in Serbia have shown discontent with the country's hardline president, Aleksandar Vučić, with allegations of corruption, which escalated after a railway station roof collapsed and killed 15 people last November. The Vučić administration has responded to the protest with a mix of crackdowns and concessions. Following the unrest, Brnabić declared that Serbia's parliament will not back down and condemned the lawmakers who disrupted the session, calling them terrorists.
China's new tariffs on US farm goods are poised to reshape global trade flows, prompting the world's top agricultural importer to source more meat, dairy and grains from countries in South America, Europe and the Pacific.
China's new tariffs on US farm goods are poised to reshape global trade flows. The country retaliated swiftly on Tuesday against fresh US duties, announcing hikes of 10% and 15% to import levies, covering $21 billion worth of American agricultural goods. Now, China, the world's top agricultural importer, will need to source more meat, dairy and grains from countries in South America, Europe and the Pacific. Analysts and industry experts say shipments to China from key soybean supplier Brazil, top wheat exporter Australia and major pork supplier Europe could surge as a trade war hots up. China is the largest market for US farm exports. It took over $29 billion worth of products in 2024. So any shift in trade flows could create opportunities for rival exporters. That would continue a trend in which China has curbed dependence on US agriculture since the trade war during President Donald Trump's first term. European and South American meat shipments to China are expected to rise as a result. But China's reliance on the US for chicken feet is likely to continue. Experts say alternatives would be difficult to source fully and quickly. About half of US soybean exports go to China. The latest tariff on US soybeans heralds even greater reliance on Brazil and Argentina.
New Zealand dismissed its top envoy to the UK after High Commissioner Phil Goff compared Trump's Ukraine policy to the 1938 Munich Agreement during a London event. Goff's remarks came after a heated Oval Office exchange between Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, which led to the US military pausing aid to Kyiv. His comments drew sharp criticism from New Zealand's Foreign Minister Winston Peters, who said they made Goff's position untenable. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon supported the decision to dismiss Goff, saying it was entirely appropriate. However, the move has sparked criticism from former Prime Minister Helen Clark, who called it a very thin excuse. While some see Goff's remarks as accurate historical comparison, others argue that diplomats must remain neutral in public statements. Regardless, his departure adds another layer of complexity to New Zealand's foreign policy as global tensions over Ukraine continue to rise. Cyclone Alfred stalled off Australia's east coast as officials shut airports, schools and public transport while residents stockpiled supplies and sandbagged homes against flooding expected when the Category 2 storm hits.
Cyclone Alfred, now classified as a Category 2 storm, remains stalled off Australia's east coast. Initially expected to hit early Friday, officials now say landfall will likely occur by Friday evening or Saturday morning near Brisbane, home to 2.7 million people. Authorities are taking no chances, shutting down major airports, schools and public transport ahead of the storm. Supermarkets are seeing long lines as residents rush to stockpile essentials while emergency crews work around the clock to secure flood-prone areas. Cyclone Alfred's impact won't be limited to Queensland. Both regions in New South Wales are also expected to see torrential rains and gale force winds. With the storm's slow-moving nature, authorities warn that its biggest threat may be prolonged flooding, with heavy rain expected well after landfall. As Cyclone Alfred inches closer, officials say that preparedness is key. Residents in affected areas should stay updated on warnings, follow evacuation orders if necessary, and take all precautions to stay safe.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. President Trump has decided to give US automakers a break on those steep tariffs on import of goods from Canada and Mexico that went into effect this week, but only until 2nd of April.
U.S. President Donald Trump will exempt automakers from his punishing 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico for 1 month, as long as they comply with the terms of an existing free trade agreement. That's according to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
The president is giving them an exemption for 1 month so they are not at an economic disadvantage. So the three companies that he spoke to are Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors. They requested the call, they made the ask, and the president is happy to do it. It's a 1 month exemption.
Auto stocks rose on the news. Trump is also open to hearing about other products that should be exempted from the tariffs, which took effect Tuesday, the White House said. The levies pose extreme difficulties for automakers, which produce vehicles in all three countries and often ship parts across North American borders multiple times as they get built up into systems and finished vehicles. Automakers have expressed support for boosting U.S. investment, but want certainty over tariff policies as well as on vehicle emissions rules. Trump also might eliminate the 10% tariff on Canadian energy imports, such as crude oil and gasoline, a source familiar with the discussion said. The announcement came after a phone call in which Trump said on Truth Social he told Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that his country is not doing enough to stop fentanyl smuggling.
He said that he was not pleased, as you said. He said it's not good enough. He told Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that directly. The call ended in a somewhat friendly manner, as the president said, but he's not going to stop standing up for the American people.
Talks will continue between the two countries, Trudeau's office said. The tariffs could threaten to derail Canada's fledgling economic recovery and could trigger a recession, as the country relies on the United States for 75% of its exports and a third of all imports. Trade tensions may already be hurting the United States. New data released on Wednesday showed slowing payroll growth, as well as lower wage growth for workers who switched jobs, with uncertainty around Trump's policies a likely factor.
A divided U.S. Supreme Court declined to let President Donald Trump's administration withhold payment to foreign aid organizations for work they already perform for the government as the Republican president moves to pull the plug on American humanitarian projects around the world.
A divided U.S. Supreme Court ruled against the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday, upholding a lower court decision that the government cannot withhold payment to foreign aid organizations for work they've already performed. The legal setback comes as the Republican president moves to pull the plug on American humanitarian projects around the world. Pursuing what he has called a, quote, America First agenda, Trump ordered a 90-day pause on all foreign aid in his first day back in office. That order and ensuing stop work orders halting U.S. Agency for International Development operations around the world have jeopardized delivery of life-saving food and medical aid, throwing global humanitarian relief efforts into chaos. Aid organizations accused Trump in lawsuits of exceeding his authority under federal law by stepping into an area that's a matter for Congress. A Washington-based U.S. district judge last month ordered the administration release approximately $2 billion in funding to contractors and grant recipients. Trump appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. His Solicitor General wrote in a filing that the lower court order should be blocked, saying it would, quote, unlawfully commandeer federal payment processes. But Chief Justice John Roberts and fellow conservative Amy Coney Barrett joined the court's 3 liberal members in rejecting the Trump administration's appeal. Conservative Justices Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh dissented from the decision. The court did not provide a rationale for its unsigned order on Wednesday.
Elon Musk, who is advising President Donald Trump on plans to radically shrink the U.S. government, said that the U.S. Postal Service and passenger railroad Amtrak should be privatized.
Elon Musk may have a new target. The billionaire leading Donald Trump's cost-cutting effort says it's time to sell off Amtrak and the U.S. Postal Service. Speaking Wednesday at a conference run by Morgan Stanley, he said the government should privatize everything that can be privatized. Musk said he thought such moves would need congressional approval. Last month, Trump said he was thinking about merging the Postal Service, a government agency, with the Commerce Department.
And we're thinking about doing that, and it'll be a form of a merger, but it'll remain the Postal Service, and I think it'll operate a lot better.
That's a move Democrats say would violate federal law. The USPS has lost some $100 billion since 2007. Though this month it did report a profit for the latest quarter. It has suffered as email and messaging systems drove a big decline in first-class mail volumes, now at their lowest level since 1968. As for Amtrak, its ridership topped pre-COVID levels last year with a record 32.8 million customer trips. But it still posted an operating loss of over $700 million for the 12 months to the end of September. And Musk says compared to something like high-speed rail in China, Amtrak is, quote, a sad situation. It will leave you with a very bad impression of America. Asked about the comments, the rail operator said its business was strong. It said it was on track to reach operational profitability for the first time under the new administration. The network is boosting services on the East Coast as part of a bid to double usage nationwide by 2040. During his first term, Trump repeatedly sought to cut funding for Amtrak, which received about $2.4 billion in federal support last year.
US has paused intelligence sharing with Ukraine, piling pressure on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to cooperate with US President Donald Trump in convening peace talks with Russia.
The United States has paused intelligence sharing with Ukraine, the latest dramatic reversal in what had been vital military cooperation as Washington helped Kyiv battle a brutal Russian invasion. The move stands to significantly hamper Ukraine's ability to defend itself in the midst of the largest conflict in Europe since the Second World War. And it further piles pressure on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to cooperate with U.S. President Donald Trump's demands in convening peace talks with Russia. The decision, announced Wednesday by CIA Director John Ratcliffe, illustrates the Trump administration's willingness to play hardball with an ally, to force it to the negotiating table just days after halting U.S. military aid to Kyiv. On Monday, Washington halted military aid to Kyiv following a disastrous Oval Office meeting last week, in which Trump and Zelensky engaged in a shouting match before the world's media. The clash delayed the signing of a Ukraine-U.S. minerals deal. But on Tuesday, Trump said he received a letter from Zelensky in which the Ukrainian leader said he was willing to come back to the negotiating table. The White House says it's now reconsidering.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. Extinction is still forever, but scientists at the biotech company Colossal Biosciences are trying what they say is the next best thing to restoring ancient beasts, genetically engineering living animals with qualities to resemble extinct species like the woolly mammoth.
Scientists in Texas are trying to bring back the extinct woolly mammoth, and they believe they've had a breakthrough. Colossal Biosciences has managed to create woolly mice. They look just like normal mice with long hair. Colossal Biosciences says it's the world's first de-extinction and species preservation company. Lamb said the Earth could lose up to 50% of all biodiversity between now and 2050 if no action is taken. And the bioengineering company is aiming to invent new technologies to help not only save but bring back species, with these woolly mice being a first step.
After surviving a California wildfire, a badly injured gray fox was rescued from an Orange County neighborhood, rehabilitated for 5 months at the Ramona Wildfire Center, and has now been released back into the wild.
A gray fox that was burned in a California fire has been released to the wild. 153 days. That's how long it took veterinarians at the San Diego Humane Society's Ramona Wildlife Center to nurse this little fox to health. He was brought in with traumatic burn wounds on his paws caused by the airport fire, which burned 23,526 acres of land in September and October of 2024. Vet staff worked to manage the pain of the second and third degree burns the fox sustained on all of his paw pads. He was slowly transitioned from around-the-clock medical care inside the clinic to an outdoor enclosure. Here, the fox relearned the joys of climbing and jumping, all while being video monitored by the Humane Society staff. After 5 months of healing, it was time for the gray fox to rejoin his wild cousins.
Ready.
It was truly a homecoming of sorts. The fox was released in Orange County, not far from where he was found after the fire.
After 9 months aboard the International Space Station, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams are set to return to Earth later this month, while their replacements are scheduled to arrive next week.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Speaking out from space,
we are ready.
NASA astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore now closing in on their long-awaited return to Earth.
And we'll be coming home, riding the plasma, splashing down in the ocean, so that's what we're looking forward to.
Alongside astronaut Nick Hague, who arrived on a different mission, the group is expected to swap out with the new crew and return home this month, nearly 300 days later than Williams and Wilmore initially planned. Their unexpectedly long stay, complicated by technical problems, has captured widespread attention and concern. President Trump suggesting they were virtually abandoned in space by the Biden administration, but the astronauts insist they're not stuck, steering clear of politicizing their time in orbit.
From my standpoint, politics is not playing into this at all. We came up prepared to stay long, even though we planned to stay short. That's what we do in human spaceflight.
The veteran astronauts have kept busy at the International Space Station with hundreds of experiments, 3D printing, and spacewalks. Williams even setting a record for the most spacewalk time by a woman, a staggering 62 hours and 6 minutes. And while the pair is excited to soon embrace their family, friends, and pups, their sense of wonder brighter than ever.
Hey, we're going to the moon and Mars. That's what my plan is.
I'll be right beside Butch if that's the case.
Well, that's a wrap from all of us at World News Tonight. I'm Prashansa Gunawardena, and we leave you with stunning visuals of earthy hues and dazzling sparkle from Armani's Milan fashion show. Thank you for watching and have a great night.